ሰላም ጤና ይስጥልን ክቡራን የሉሲ ሬዲዮ አድማጮቻችን፣ በዛሬው ዕለት የምናቀርበው ዝግጅት በአንድ ኢትዮጵያዊ ደራሲ የመጽሐፍ ምረቃ ላይ ተገኝተን በመጽሐፉና በጸሐፊው ዙሪያ የተሰጡትን አስተያየቶች ልዩ ዝግጅት ይሆናል። ወደፊት የመጽሐፉ ደራሲ ከሆኑት ከፓስተር ሂርፖ ኩምቢ ጋር በሙያቸው በስራቸውና በጻፏቸው መጽሐፍቶች ዙሪያ ሰፊ ቃለ ምልልስ እንደምናቀርብላችሁ በመጠቆም ስለ ድምፅ ጥራቱ ከፍተኛ ይቅርታ እንጠይቃለን። የዛሬ ዝግጅታችንን እንድትከታተሉ በማክበር የምጋብዘው አዘጋጁ እኔ ዘውዱ መንግስቴ ነኝ። መልካም ቆይታ ከሉሲ ሬዲዮ ጋር።
Hirpo asked me to address this question. Why do we need a book about cultural intelligence? And I want to give you just a couple of pointers as to why this book is absolutely essential for our situation today. The first thing is this: the Christian faith has never been growing faster than it is today. If we look at the world as a whole, Christianity is growing more quickly now than at any other point in history. It's wonderful. That's the first point. And what that means is that for the first time in the whole of human history, we can say that there is a viable church in pretty much every culture on earth. It's a very encouraging time. So if you want to be interested in multicultural things, intercultural things, the best place to look is the Christian church, because we are incredibly multicultural actually when we look at our world representation. The second thing to say is that there has never been a time when populations are moving from one place to another on the scale that they're moving today. It's actually amazing. And the third thing to say is that missions in their modern representation came from the West to the rest, and now that tide has been reversed, and now we are seeing mission coming from everywhere else to the West. That's fantastic. We're pleased that Christians from many, many other countries, from many, many other nations are coming to the West. But here's the problem. It's not so easy to reach Anglos. And what often happens is that many, many churches which begin from maybe Korean missionaries or South American missionaries or African missionaries from different nations or Indian missionaries, they start out with the intention of reaching Anglo people, but actually who do they reach in the end? They reach their own people who happen to be living here. And that's a problem. It's a problem for many reasons. The first reason it's a problem is because actually, if we're not careful, we'll end up not being a multicultural church, but a segregated church. And we don't want to see a segregated church. We want to see a church that's truly representative of all of God's people. It's a problem also because single ethnicity churches are one-generation churches. They will fail to keep their young people, their children and their grandchildren in the faith unless they can adapt to the cultural situation in which they find themselves. So for all of these reasons, the book that Hirpo has written is fantastically important. It offers deep insight into the issues, but not just the issues, also the solutions in terms of how we conduct ourselves in this unique situation in which we find ourselves. I just find it a thrilling read. I'm so pleased with what I find in these pages. And I believe that if men and women, Christian leaders, grab hold of the book and really take seriously its contents and put it into practice, it will help us to equip the church for the kind of mission that God is calling us to. So that's a little bit about the book. But I want to say a little bit about the author. Because the author is a living embodiment of what he has written. So I first came across Hirpo when he turned up as a student in my class, my MA class, in the year 2008. Sorry, 2007. 2007 I met Hirpo, so that's 10 years ago. And then, as a consequence of that, he wanted to connect with the network of churches that I'm helping to lead. And he was keen on that because the network of churches that I'm working with is wanting to plant churches multiculturally, across cultures, into cultures. And so we had that in common. So that same year, 2007, Hirpo and his congregation joined the FCC, Fellowship of Churches of Christ. The following year, Hirpo became part of the national leadership team, and he's been part of that national leadership team ever since and makes a tremendous contribution. 2010, he finally graduated. He finished his MA on time. Not all our students finish on time, but Hirpo finished on time. That was very good. And then the following year, he started a campus here in Leeds, at which the various courses that Formation was offering could be taught. And actually, the Leeds campus has been one of the most successful of our 8 campuses, mainly because of Hirpo's leadership. But he wasn't going to be limited to Leeds. And what happened was that after a couple of years, he became not just the director of the Leeds campus, but he became the regional director for the whole of the north, and he was running a campus in Liverpool, or a campus in Manchester, as well as a campus in Leeds, and as well as another campus a little bit further south. So 4 campuses in his regional responsibility. That was 2014. 2014 also he came on the board of Formation as an organization, and he's been tremendously helpful on the board in helping to steer the strategy of the whole organization. And then this year he came onto the executive team, and he's now one of the national directors, joining with myself and one other national director as the kind of 3 wise men, we hope, that will steer the organization. So it's been quite a journey with Hirpo, and I just want you to realize that the quality of the man who has written the book. Because this isn't just an intellectual exercise, this is something that he practices in a whole number of levels, in Leeds, regionally, nationally, and now we're beginning to think about internationally. So Hirpo is somebody who carries tremendous respect and tremendous honor quite widely across the nation, and he is growing in stature. But here's the thing, he wouldn't tell you this. It needs somebody to come from outside to tell you what a wonderful man you are honored to have as one of your leaders. So Hirpo, we thank you and we bless you. We're pleased to be your colleagues, but most of all, we're pleased to be your friend. Right. So you're a bit of a team, yes? Yeah. Evangelistically and trying to reach across to different ethnic groups. Can you tell me something what you're up to?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we met a few months back. Yeah, memories have been gone. But yeah, what we try and do is reach young people, not just from a certain background or certain culture, but people all over the world. Like people who come who are Ethiopians, British, Eritreans, anyone really. We focus on the kingdom and what God wants us to do, rather than pick out a certain minority or a certain culture. And we try and inspire people from all walks of life.
So as you're doing that, and you meet young people from other cultures, would you say that young people generally are open to conversations about God? What would you say?
From our experience, what we've seen is that we can only, obviously, we know our Ethiopian culture, and what we've seen is that we tend not to mix with other cultures, and that seems to be coming from the top to the bottom to young people, and we work and we do with young people. So that's been a struggle to try and mix with different churches. So we sort of tend to mix and stick with our own, and as a young ministry, where we try and get other young people to mix with different churches across the cities. So we've come from London, we're trying to get young people from Birmingham, Leeds, Manchester, trying to unite all together.
So, have you got a story or an example of where you've seen some success in this ministry?
Well, one of the things I want to mention personally, something you said earlier about that gap that you find there being a one-generation church. We find that in the Ethiopian or Eritrean community, which is the sort of the church that we grew up in, we find that that is actually where it does end, and we find that our leaders lacking what's needed to go ahead and connect with us and see the creative side of ministry, or the dynamic side, or what we could do, how we can minister, whether it's blogging, whether it's writing, whether it's social media. We find that there is a chasm that was mentioned earlier. And we sort of rose up as X generation in a way to go ahead and fill that chasm and say, right, we're not as young as we look, but we're not as old as we look either. So it's just a matter of saying, look, we can connect with the older folk, and we can go ahead and connect with the younger folk. I can speak to some young people, whether it's secondary school level or college level, and I'll be able to go ahead and connect, and I can impart the passion and the love for Christ and His kingdom that I have onto these young people, because we know that, we live in a world where everything else has a loud voice in pulling them away and taking them away from the kingdom. And they come to church and they leave disenchanted and not excited about what they're seeing, and not interested in what they're hearing. So it's just for us to go ahead and fill that gap and say, look, I love Christ. The brothers that are with me love Christ. And we grew up here, so we speak the language, we understand the culture, we know what you've been through. Let us reach and sort of where you've been. So I think this book is important. I support what he's doing, I support what this is about, and it's much needed. With the examples, I mean, we've connected with some youth in Birmingham, we've connected with some youth in Manchester. I mean, we have many ideas, we're still up and coming, we're still new. Support is hard to get, I'll be very honest, but we've sat down with Pastor Hirpo, and I think we sat with him in London. He came to London just to see us, to spend some time with us, which was massive. It was a massive honor for him to come down all the way to London just to go in and speak to us and say, listen, what's your vision? What do you want to do? And how can I support you? He gave us some advice. He says, if you go in and fill these things up here, and my door's open. That's massive. For us, that's massive. Because we don't hear that a lot. And whenever we step out, we're sort of, we meet, what are you about? What are you going to do? Why are you doing it? No, don't sit down and wait until that. But that's not what we got from him. So it's encouraging. This is encouraging.
Any other word that you want to share?
But just to add, it does make sense in terms of being culturally intelligent, because one barrier that we're trying to break, especially as a Habesha community, is the cultural difference with other communities. And And our vision, especially as a young ministry called Acts Generation Intervention, is that we want to get our young people to mix with other cultures and other churches. So I think this is a brilliant, which I personally want to read and learn, because I'm sure there's information that will help us grow.
Hirpo has been a great leader, he's been a great inspiration. He's told me a little bit about the book. We met a couple of months back while in Birmingham. He came down, he spent some time with me, and he missed his train like 2-3 times just because I was talking to him, which is great. Really need people like him in this day and age, people who are willing to bring everyone together, because that's what we're about, that's what Christ wants us to do in this. Is to be united. We're all one. We are the church. Like, this is just a building. We are the church right here, and that's what Pastor Hirpo is trying to do. And it's great to see that. He's inspiring us, so that we can go and inspire other young leaders as well. So it has been a great pleasure to meet Pastor Hirpo, to be inspired by him, and to bring that by him. So it's great.
Thank you, guys. Paul, you've had quite a bit of contact with Hirpo through the years. What comment would you like to offer?
I think the thing about Hirpo that's been such a blessing to me is that I've been trying to network with over 40 different nationalities in this city, in Leeds now for about 12 years. And I discovered Hirpo somewhere along the way, just at the beginning really, and I can remember the animated and exciting conversations that we had, and literally talking about a book, we found ourselves on the same page. So I was so delighted when this book appeared, because the particular thing that really struck me about this was the sort of the prophetic edge of it, that it was looking forward with such tremendous hope. And I love this phrase here, that emerging in the UK is a culture which is neither British nor immigrant, but a new third culture. And that is something that I'm beginning to see, and especially younger generation perhaps don't feel the same way as the older generation. But I think this partnership with the younger generation and the fact that they are urging us on, in a sense, comes through. But there's one other word in this book that I love, and it's a word that I've been doing research for my master's recently as well, on the whole issue of interculturalism and how far the church is really engaging interculturally. And the thing that really struck me, and it comes out in this book, is being intentional. And Hirpo is certainly a man with intention and passion. And this book is not just relevant to migrant communities, but it's relevant to the wide British church as well. And I think that we, I'm not talking to the majority of people who are not white in the same way, but there is something in this, and something that I believe comes through, which is quite exciting. This book dares to dream. A bit like Martin Luther King, I have a dream. Hirpo has a dream. And you need to really seriously engage with this, because it's sort of in my blood as well, and it encourages me in my task in terms of the ongoing nature of seeing how, even though cultures can be distinctive, identity is important. Your identity is vital, but if it goes back into the monocultural thing, then, as Martin has been saying, and this comes out in the book, as a warning, and it's not a comfortable book to read. If you're going to really engage with it, it is deeply challenging. And I would say, be challenged and work out for yourself what this means for you in your context. Because it's not just the leaders at the top, or those who seem to be at the top, but it's leadership on all sorts of levels. And I'd like to think that everybody in this room, you've got potential to lead and to have influence. And so please get to grips with this, and be disturbed and be challenged. And I know for you it's more difficult than it is perhaps for us white British, but I would encourage you. We need you. We need the jewel within the Ethiopian and Eritrean culture, crossing the culture and contributing to mission within the West. So bless you. So I can't recommend it now either.
We have been talking about multicultural, multi-ethnic, multinational mission in this country. Let me put it this way, as a final say. It might seem practical to develop multi-ethnic missional communities, given that to date few people have advanced arguments in favor of such communities. Further, some thinkers have argued that merits of establishing multi-ethnic missional communities are debatable and are inclined to discourage a move toward desert. However, the formation of multi-ethnic missional communities is vital. I see the church in Great Britain and elsewhere in the West world being transformed, not just establishment of churches with minority ethnic groups, such as church will be truly missional in the sense of sent by God. I can see that the church will become multi-ethnic. It will be a community not just of one nation, but one embracing many nations. Not just one ethnic group, but all peoples. At the same time, books like this will become redundant concerning history. Finally, I dedicate this book to my son Martin.